Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 199 Fight Night, Derrick Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. We're going to get into the main event. We're going to talk fate of the card. I'm going to talk a little bit about Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley and kind of give you my angle on that as well. But we are coming off a 3-2 night. Not exactly where we wanted to go in our client plays last week. Big loss was on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Thought he would come through and kind of get us to that 4-1 mark. Didn't get there. We got the 3-2, but we did cash in nicely on Charles Oliveira at plus 140. He really did a great job, and I gotta give credit to Poirier looking to kind of go out there and bang early. But man, Oliveira came through and ended up getting us to cash in. So we go out there, we get that victory there, we move on into this event. And for those of you who were following me on Twitter, you did see me do a shoey. I had sent out a tweet letting everybody know, hey, you know what? If Amanda Nunes loses via submission, I'll do a shoey. That actually ended up happening, as we all know. Had to do a shoey. If you want to take a look at it, you can take a look at my Twitter at Kyle Anthony UFC. You'll see it there. Not the greatest moment of my life, but we have I've got 2 client plays up. I'm probably going to have about 4 client plays, maybe 5 for this weekend. If you're interested, have it up as a discount. Take a look. Link down in the description if you want to get involved in that. We're doing the giveaway also, so if you want to get into this giveaway, it's a 1-year subscription of all of my plays. If you're interested, go on Twitter, and on that post there, you want to like, retweet, and follow me, as well as let me know who's going to win the main event and what round. That's kind of the way I've been sticking to it. I think it's the easiest way to kind of gauge an entry and a free way to kind of get into this. So we're going to have that. If you want to get into it, that's the way you become a client for a year. But with that being said, we're going to talk Derrick Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. Now, this is an interesting fight here. This is a fight here that I really feel that I kind of like this angle, and this was a spot where I was kind of going back and forth, and the more I dove into it, and we're going to talk about what I saw, the more I dove into it, the more I liked a certain side. So we're going to first look at it now. It looks like the money is starting to kind of come in now on Derrick Lewis at this point. I'm looking at it now. I mean, I think it's actually ticked down a little bit more, but you got Chris Daukaus, who's a minus 140. You've got Derrick Lewis, who is a plus 120. Now I'm starting to see books as low as, plus 110 I'm starting to see, and Chris Daukaus at minus, 125, minus 130. So definitely shop it around, depending where which side you're going to be going on there. But we're going to do what we always do here. We're going to talk 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first thing we're going to be talking about here is Derrick Lewis. Now Derrick Lewis 3 fights ago fought Alexei Oleinik. This was an interesting fight here because the big knock here for Derrick Lewis was going to be, hey, can he defend those takedowns? Can he defend the takedowns? Is he going to be, kind of get through that? What's going to happen on the ground there? And Lewis right away comes out with a takedown. He shoots right away and gets Oleinik down. But from that spot there, this is home for Oleinik. This is where he wants to be. He goes in there. He starts, they did a lot of reversals, kind of going back and forth, reverse. Then you did see that, of course, Oleinik at the end of that round ended up getting the position. He got the top position, and it ended up, if there was maybe 20 more seconds of that fight, Oleinik was going to get the finish. I think so. It was very, very close. He was in a bad spot. But just a weird, that's Lewis for you. And even going into Saturday night, you never know what this guy's going to do. You really don't know what this guy's going to do. And he goes up there and takes the guy down, or that's his only path to victory is a takedown. But going into the second round, once again, and one thing also, you got Oleinik, he's just submission hunting. He's submission hunting constantly, and he's so damn good in the ground. But going to the second round, you did see Lewis goes out there, lands a big shot, then just swarmed him, throws big bombs. That's what he should have been done in the first round. He ends up knocking out Oleinik in the second round by TKO. He gets the victory there, but early in that fight, though, it looked a little iffy. But he goes out there and gets the job done, so that was a win for Derrick Lewis there. 2 fights ago, he fought Curtis Blaydes. Now, this was a fight here where, again, it's the same kind of scenario. You got a guy who's going to be a grappler, who's going to look to get the takedowns, who's going to push for those takedowns, and this was a spot here where early in that fight, it almost looked as if Curtis Blaydes was a little timid. He kind of looked to say, hey, I'm kind of trigger shy on shooting those takedowns, knowing that the power that Derrick Lewis has. That's going to be obviously the spot where he's going to find success. He's looking for the level changes, but also Curtis Blaydes has really evolved his striking. He started to get a lot more comfortable in the pocket, exchanging, kind of hiding some of those takedowns behind some nice strikes. Has looked pretty good. And early in that first round, it looked as if, hey, I'm going to stand and start, swinging with Derrick. And then once he started getting a little bit of taste of those big shots, is when he started trying to look for the level change. But Derrick Lewis did well early. He kind of defended those, kept space. And I think Curtis Blaydes almost was looking like he was shooting a little too far out when they were starting to kind of have those exchanges. But going into that second round, it was just a sloppy takedown attempt. I mean, I really got to say, Curtis Blaydes comes out really far, a naked takedown, and he threw the bomb heard around the world, drops Curtis Blaydes, end of fight, over, done with. That was a fight there that everybody pretty much, including myself, was one of those people saying, hey, Curtis Blaydes is going to just take him down. Curtis Blaydes is another guy, again, who just is relentless with those takedowns, and that was going to be, hey, this is the path to victory for him. I don't see Lewis kind of being able to kind of maneuver. He's a lot slower. And he landed the big bomb. That was his one out. He lands it, fight over, knocks out Curtis Blaydes in the second round. And then most recently he fought, and I believe it was for the interim title, against Cyril Gane. Now this is the most interesting fight. I did watch it 2 times just because, there wasn't too much to take away from it, but then there actually was by the end of it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually pretty interesting. The one thing here that you look at is obviously Gane is just a higher caliber striker in general than you're talking about Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis does not have that, the versatility, all of these different weapons and all these kind of things. And, he's got the bomb. That's his thing. He's looking to throw the big Hail Mary shot, and he ends up landing, and he does not have to pepper you with a jab or work from the outside and work these angles. He's looking to land a big shot, and that's what happens. And here, someone like Gane is just way too good for that. He's just way too good for it. His distance management, his range, he quickly and easily switches from southpaw to orthodox, calmly moving around. And that was something you saw early in that fight where he was just very, very, very relaxed and just did not allow it to be, hey, this is a heavyweight shot, let's go in there, let's bang. He was very, very calm. And I think the looks that Gane was giving him was just, really, he looked off. Really, really, Lewis just looked off. It looked like he just couldn't get into rhythm. The pace was off. You go through that first round, I think he landed 1 strike in that whole first round and hardly threw any punches, where you just really saw Gane work from the outside, circle. Anytime he was in danger, where he was up against the fence, Lewis looking to charge, he smoothly moved out of the way, and Gane is just another level, which I really can't wait for that fight next year, early next year, where you got Ngannou versus Gane. I think it's just an amazing fight to start the year. But the fact that he just wasn't able to do anything, and he just looked baffled constantly. Even that second round, he was there was a point he was looking to grapple, he was looking to get the takedowns, and there even you saw again, Gane pivoting, moving kind of out of range, and then landing the big shots. His big thing was he just started working the leg, and that was a clear path. As soon as Gane saw, hey, you're not checking any of these, okay, I'm just going to keep slapping the front leg, that slowed Lewis down completely, and I still feel like a lot of it, Gane had more. Like he had more to offer, but he was being, and that's his thing. We've seen him in the past where he's beaten guys, and he's not scared to just kind of be boring. Not like that he is such a boring fighter, but he's not scared to say, hey, I'll just pick you apart from the outside and wait to find the right spot. And that's what he did in that spot there. He goes into the situation where he worked the leg, going into that into the third round. Once again, he was just landing them. And the crazy part of this is that I think by the end of this fight, there was 3 significant strikes landed for Derrick Lewis in 3 rounds. So the fight ends in that third round. It was pretty much, I think that Lewis he didn't look himself. He looked off. He did not look comfortable at any point. And that's just really more, I think, credit to Gane than something wrong with Lewis. I think it was more Gane that just shows the level that he's at. And when you're talking about a pure striking match, Lewis does not have those weapons. Gane has way too many. He goes out there and gets the finish in the third round. Now on the other side, we've got Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus here, 3 fights ago, he fought Rodrigo Nascimento. And this was a spot here. Rodrigo was a minus 270 going into this fight. You had on the comeback on Daukaus at a plus 230. Kind of crazy there if you really think about things. But he goes into this fight here. It was a quick one. And that's, Rodrigo's not, Rodrigo's okay. I guess he's all right. But he goes out there and he did what he's supposed to do. Landed some big shots. He was much smaller than Rodrigo was. But the hand speed is definitely, absolutely, that's Daukaus' bread and butter, where he's going to be faster than these guys. As in hand speed, he's going to have that opportunity to kind of land the better shots when it's coming down to that. So I think that's extremely important when you're talking about Saturday night. But he goes out there, gets the first round knockout finish, gets the victory there, TKO. 2 fights ago, he fought Alexei Oleinik. Also, this is another spot here where, he just pretty much early, Oleinik looked to pull for the ground. Oleinik was like, hey, you know what? I don't want to stand with this guy. And he started trying to pull guard and get Daukaus down. I think right away he realized that's my path. And then right away, Oleinik has that sloppiness to him. Once he's on the ground, he is smooth as could be. We're talking about his just transitions, his submission hunting, just overall, he is really, really great there. He's really creative with his submissions. But you've got in a spot here where he looked to just pull him down. He has those sloppy takedowns, and then Daukaus starts teeing off on him right away with big shots as he's working his way up, throws a knee as Oleinik kind of pulled Oleinik down a little bit, nailed him, knocks him down. Fight over. I mean, again, these are fights we can't really fully dive into because he was doing so goddamn well out there, and Daukaus goes out there and dominates, gets another first round knockout finish. So there you have it there. And then most recently, against Shamil, I'm not even going to say his last name, but against Shamil, this was a fight where it was really supposed to be another aging guy fighting the younger up-and-comer, although, he's 32, Daukaus, but still, an up-and-comer coming in, knocking guys out. This was supposed to be really just another highlight reel knockout for him. And this is a spot here where Shamil was, out a layoff of 2 years, and then on top of that, he's 40 years old. I mean, everything was spelling, this is a terrible, terrible matchup for Shamil in this spot. But the fact is early in that fight, he was landing good shots on Daukaus. He was landing shots on Daukaus. The pace, he was walking down Daukaus, which was just, if you go back and rewatch it, you see that pretty much that whole first round up until the end of that first round was Shamil. He was kind of, again, moving forward. His striking is very basic. He does not do very much. He's predominantly just was throwing these wild big shots and landing on Daukaus. And the fact that Daukaus is hittable is, for a guy of his caliber, is not a great thing when you're talking about a guy who's got so much power like Lewis, where if he lands even half of those shots that Shamil did, the fight's going to be over and Daukaus is going to be knocked out. So the defensive side of that was a little iffy, and you heard even, I think it was Daniel Cormier, whoever it was, in the announcer booth, they were kind of saying, wow, he looks at, Daukaus looks out of pace, he looks out of rhythm, he looks like he's just a little bit out of it, and then he lands a big shot, and that is what Daukaus can do. His hand speed's there, he has the power to back it up as well, he drops Shamil, gets on top of him, lands some nice shots, then he kind of got, I think it was like full mount he almost had, lands some big shots, and then going to the second round, you could tell that Shamil was just, he was done, and he landed another big shot, dropped him, fight over, he ends up getting the finish. But it's a little bit iffy seeing that a guy like that, who was out for 2 years and 40 years old, was landing those kind of shots early. That's a little bit something to be question marked, but there you have it there and that. So with that being said, we've got, of course, these two guys very similar. Both of them have big time power. They're both looking to throw the big bombs. Again, the big part here on your side, Daukaus, is going to be that hand speed. That's kind of his advantage when you're looking at it. On the other side, you've got Lewis, who's a guy who has power, who has the size compared to, and I'm very interested to see kind of when the weigh-ins happen, how these guys look when they're actually toe-to-toe and kind of how that all pans out. But he's a massive guy. I mean, the Black Beast is a massive, massive guy, and you've got Daukaus, who is definitely on the smaller side. So it's going to be interesting to see how that is. But I think the first big thing when you're looking at this, you're breaking this down, I think the first big thing is the competition level. Now, of course, you've got Lewis. He's, starting to get up there in age, but he has faced some of the elite guys. I mean, you've got He also fought Gane. He fought Daniel Cormier, Volkov, Curtis Blades, and Ngannou. I mean, there's so many guys that he has fought that where he has really lost to, good fighters. I mean, he's not losing to a bunch of bums. I mean, losing to Gane and seeing what Gane can do, and now you got Gane going up against Ngannou, who looked like, no one's even gonna, Gane's gonna be a minus 300 against everybody. Now we're talking that's a pick 'em. That just is the credit to how good Gane is. So with that, it just shows, again, competition level for me is always critical when I'm breaking this down. It's not an NLBL, but it's a piece of it, because this is going to be easily the toughest fight that Daukaus has faced, while I would say this is a step down, for Lewis on the other side. This is not this, you can't put Daukaus anywhere near the caliber of guys that you've seen Derrick Lewis face. And then the second part of this is, and I think this is the biggest part really, is this is the perfect stylistic matchup for Derrick Lewis. This is just this is like to a T. I think if he could pick the type of fight he would want to be in, this would be the type of opponent he would want to fight. This is the exact type of fight he would want. And really the biggest part is, it's just a boxing brawl. That is a wheelhouse for Lewis at any time. I mean, where he's not gonna have to worry with the takedowns, and that's been a thing. You've seen him have to fight these guys where, he wants to pull the trigger, he wants to let loose. But the level change, he knows, is a massive advantage for the other fighter, where you're talking about guys like Curtis Blades, even Oleinik, where you've got these guys that have that ability, Daniel Cormier. I mean, you've got guys that are like that. Now, if you're fighting guys that are just pure on kickboxers, that's gonna be a level up, where they're gonna be able to use their legs, they're gonna be able to fire different shots, different looks. That's not Daukaus. Daukaus is not a guy that's going to be throwing a lot of flashy stuff or really kind of mix up these head kicks and all these things. It's really, this is going to be a glorified boxing match is the way I look at this. I mean, both guys are going to be firing in the middle and just using predominantly their hands, and that makes me absolutely start leaning towards Derrick Lewis in this spot. Absolutely, I think that's a big part of this when you're looking at just weapons. Again, the weapons that they have, what Derrick Lewis has even faced, compared to the weapons that the people that Daukaus has faced. Again, it's just way different when you're looking at that. And again, the takedowns for me, I think that's gonna make Lewis even more comfortable in the pocket, moving forward and pushing the pace. And then the last part here really is the cage size. I think the cage size actually helps Derrick Lewis, because the one thing for sure is, he likes to, he just wants to be in a close, he wants to be in like the phone booth fighting, like we're just brawling close, and I feel like my bomb is a lot better than your bomb, and I'm going to land it, and that's what he wants. Even against Gane, he was kind of chasing him around, and even in those spots too, where, Gane wanted to keep distance, work his distance, work from the outside, start landing nice shots, where I think this is a situation where you're going to see Daukaus invite those kind of shots. He's going to be happy. He wants to be in these brawls. He's okay with it. Now, the one thing also is Daukaus is so damn hittable. Now, it's not like Derrick Lewis is this, this elusive, defensive guy, but he is okay. He's very hittable. Again, if Schlemiel can land some shots on him, Derrick Lewis is going to. Plus, Derrick Lewis is going to have the reach advantage here. I think it's about 3 inches reach advantage here. I just really think this sits very well for Derrick Lewis. I agree why the line is coming down. I agree that people are looking at this as more of a pick'em than you're talking about, Derrick Lewis being this underdog here. So I do agree with that line movement there. I think that's where it should be going here. But for me here, in a 5-round fight, it's a prop for me here. Now, I don't blame anybody. If you're going straight on Lewis, okay, but I think that really where you're going to get more bang for your buck is going to be Derrick Lewis via knockout. I was able to get it at plus 190, and now we're seeing that tick down, plus 185, plus 170. I'm seeing on different books it's starting to kind of move around a little bit, but plus 190, even if you're getting plus 170, is great. I think that's fantastic value for a guy over a 5. Again, 3 rounds, I would question a little bit. 5 rounds, I think this is an absolute bomb fest here, and I think someone's going to sleep. So I don't see any other way that this goes. You're getting great value. If you also look at how the books kind of have this fight here, the fight doesn't go decision is around minus 500. So even the books are telling you this fight shouldn't go the distance. This is probably not going to go the distance. So getting off even the, even if you look at the plus 120 or whatever, the straight line is that you're looking at for Lewis, you're going to get great value on that knockout because Lewis is not going to piece him apart for 5 rounds and win some striking, pitter-patter fight. One of these guys are going to go to sleep. One of these guys are going to get knocked out. I think Lewis is the guy to put Daukaus to sleep here. I think he's got all the attributes here. I think everything points to him here. I think he should be the clear favorite, to be honest with you. I think he should be a lot more up there too. So I am taking, as one of my free plays, Derrick Lewis to win via knockout, plus 190. But again, you're seeing it at plus 170 or something like that as well too. But still, fantastic value. I like it. That's the first play. Now we're going to talk quickly the fade of the card. The fade of the card is Cub Swanson in a fight against Darren Elkins. So right now we got the line, it's around minus 230, 220, and then the comeback here in Elkins is about the plus 180, somewhere around there. And I'm going to go over these two quick, then I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to quickly talk about the Jake Paul fight, and we'll kind of close out the show. But I first want to talk about this. Now the reason here, there's a couple different things here. Now the first thing here is both these guys are older. Both these guys are starting to head towards the end of their career. You got a 38-year-old, 37-year-old, MMA mileage on both of these guys. I mean, they've both been in brawls, both been in wars, probably more Elkin, because he invites that kind of fight there, obviously. But I think one of the biggest things in this fight for me when I was capping it is really the small cage here again, and I always got to put that in there, but the small cage here in this situation, I think helps Elkins massively. Compared to Cub Swanson. Now I know Cub Swanson, he is definitely well-rounded. He has the ability, great ground game. Just overall, he's high fight IQ. A lot of things that you gotta like about him. But someone like Elkin is a guy who will grind it out. He's not scared to kind of keep you up against the fence. He's not scared to kind of get in there and brawl. But I think he has started to see where, a straight out brawl isn't his path. It's entertaining, but it's not a great path to keep going that way. You're seeing him find a little more success where he's just gunning for those takedowns. He's looking for the smothering. He wants to keep you up against the fence. That's been a big thing for him where he can just work to the cage. Again, he's not scared to take a shot, so he's willing to take the shot, to cut the distance, to just get his hands on you, and then he is relentless with those takedowns. And again, it could be more of a sloppier kind of fight where you got someone like Cub who's very technical, again, very well-rounded, who is okay, at range too. Now, if Elkin can't get him down, that's where you're going to see Cub have a lot of success. Work from the outside. He's going to have the better strikes, more versatile strikes, the better output, just overall better hand speed. There's a lot of things that you're going to see Cub is really going to pick Darren Elkins apart because of that. But I more am leaning towards the side that he's going to be able to, to cut that distance, to take that shot. It's not like Cub Swanson is this power knockout guy. So I think Elkin's durability can cut that distance, get him in tight, and make it be a sloppy fight. And over a 3-round fight, this is a spot here where if he can just keep positioning, if he can kind of get the takedown and kind of keep positioning, even if he gets the takedown, keeps him for a little bit, and Cub, again, who's definitely more aware when it comes to the ground game, bounces back up, and then he pushes him back up against the fence. That's kind of the way I see this fight going, where, I could just see that being a consistent thing where Elkin just presses up against the fence, looks for the takedowns. That's going to be big. He's going to shoot for takedowns constantly. I think you're going to see him do it over and over again. It's a scary fight for Cub. There's no doubt. This is a scary fight for Cub. So for me here, if you're looking at minus 230 on Cub, to me it's a stay away. I don't like it here. Am I betting Elkin? Probably not, but I am definitely staying away from Cub Swanson in this spot here. He could absolutely go out there and piece him apart and win an easy 30-27 decision, which if you're paying a minus 230 price, he better do something like that. But in this spot here, I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think you're going to see that 3rd round be maybe the decision, and it's going to be a sloppy fight, and that is the kind of fight that Elkins wins. So for me here, as my fate of the card is Cub Swanson, I think it's worth staying away from. And the last thing we're talking about, of course, right? The last thing on a UFC show we're talking about is Jake Paul, for God's sakes. So what we're going to talk about here, you got Jake Paul right now currently minus 260. And on the other side, you've got Tyron Woodley, who's about the plus 195, plus 200, right around there. Now, let's first talk about the last fight. Okay, so last fight here, when we talked about it here on the show, I broke down the fight. I picked Jake Paul. I said, hey, listen. And it wasn't because I'm against Woodley or I think Woodley's not good or all these things. And we know he's ticked down, obviously. He's, his whole music career and, these iffy decisions that he's made and has not looked good in the cage at the end of his career there. But my big thing here was this is the Jake Paul show. This is the Jake Paul show where the circus is all about him. And with boxing being as corrupt and iffy decisions as we've ever seen, obviously you've seen some crazy stuff that's happened in MMA, but it's 3 rounds. It could be a little bit closer, but 12 rounds, they could fuck up a whole lot more. And I just think there's just, for the first fight, there was just so much money backing Jake to win. They needed Jake to win. They want these other fights with Fury, and they want all these other kind of fights and kind of build him up. They know that the payday is going to be there, but they gotta have Jake Paul win. They can't have Tyron Woodley win. And again, this was the first fight. This was my outlook of it. And Jake Paul actually, footage I saw, showed he actually has some decent skills. He can throw some nice combinations. He looks like he's got a little bit of power to him. And again, I'm not talking about when he beat up a basketball player. I was seeing some footage of him kind of working the bag, and I'm like, man, he's actually taking this pretty damn seriously. So with that, plus adding in the fact that the engine is behind him, that's why I actually bet Jake Paul. So it's not this whole technicality thing. That's kind of the way it is. Now, this is a whole nother situation here where you've got Tyron Woodley against Jake Paul, second time coming around. Apparently, Woodley has just been preparing for this anyway. Who knows kind of the whole situation with Fury falling out and this happening again. That's a whole nother conversation there. So you're looking at this fight now, and you're looking at plus 200 on him at this point, somewhere around there. And the first fight was a split. So we have a fight that just took place where line was much closer, and you've got a spot where they just had a split decision, and now you've got a spot where Tyron Woodley is a bigger underdog. So a split decision, but a bigger underdog, that already starts making me go Tyron Woodley, to be honest with you. When you're looking at it, it was a close fight, and I think the fact that you're getting a better price on a guy who's clearly a better fighter, just in general. That's, it almost doesn't make sense how much it's been spread. It's almost to me as if they don't want, books either don't want the money, they don't want you touching Paul, or they just want you to take that shot on Woodley. But when you're looking at this overall, the big question here is what happened in that first fight when Woodley had Jake up against the ropes, hurt him, he didn't go in for the kill. Then it brought up a lot of questions of what the hell happened? Why did he not go in for the kill? What was going on? And the big reason, there's 2 really questions there. Now, the one was there a no knockdown clause? Was there, hey, you can't knock him down? That's some people are saying yes, that's true. Some people are saying no, that was a rumor. Who knows? It's still iffy that you've got a guy hurt. Woodley is a fighter. He's seen guys hurt throughout his career where he's knocked guys out, knocked guys down, and he knows, he's got that instinct. He knows he didn't do it there. A little suspect. Now Woodley is kind of coming out and saying he hurt his arm prior, then he couldn't throw the overhand. Whatever these things were, however you want to kind of take it, it still sounds a little iffy. Now, if we're going with, our tinfoil hat on, does the books want him to win? Does this engine behind Jake Paul want Woodley to win to then have the third fight? So it starts to be a little bit murky when you're trying to go with the weird angles of this fight. So for me in this spot here, this is a fight, I'm not that very interested in getting involved in betting-wise, but I know people, have reached out to me, hey, who do you like? Is Woodley worth it? So I just figured I'd kind of throw it in here. A sprinkle on Woodley is not a bad idea. You're talking plus 200 on a guy that's better, a better fighter, an actual professional fighter, compared to Jake Paul. I think this is a spot for Woodley. Could get this victory here. He had a split decision on the last fight, and you're getting a better price on an actual fighter. I think you take Tyron Woodley here. I'm not talking bet this as some monster play. It's worth it if you want to have a little bit of fun, throw a little something on it, because again, I just think there's a lot of antics behind this, so just be careful there. Definitely I would not touch Jake Paul, even if he knocks him out in the first round. The minus 260 is just way crazy. So for me, sprinkle on Woodley, And I think that's about it. That's about it. And then we'll start talking 2022 after this. So those are my 3 plays for UFC Fight Night 199 and the Jake Paul fight. There you have it. If you want to see my client plays, link down in the description if you want to get involved in that. I have a discount, so check it out. And no shoeies unless I have a little bit too much to drink, and then I end up throwing that out there and do another shoey bet. But hopefully we'll stay away from that. But there you have it. Let's finish the year off strong. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and we'll see you next time.